and of the conference. And for that last part, I will shortly introduce Gina Knapp to you. Gina was born in Papua New Guinea, and she is incorporating this personal connection in her work as an anthropologist, filmmaker, and researcher in locating her main regional concern in the South Pacific. Besides her geographical focus, she focuses her theoretical interest both as a curator for visual anthropology at the Ethnological Museum Berlin, as well as researcher and filmmaker on collaborative cooperations and intercultural communications. So please welcome with me Gina Knapp on stage to continue this opportunity of intercultural and collaborative exchange. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you very much. Thanks also for bearing out and still being here. It's been a very long day, not only today, 2 long days. So it's really, really great that you actually all still have the energy to stay for this evening. Thanks for the nice introduction as well. I would just like to point out first that I am not a navigator. I'm a voyager, but in a different sense. I'm not a sailor. And I'm actually working in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, which is pretty different from the cultures of the islands. But I had the chance to participate in a project on Kula exchange, which is one of the most famous exchange systems well known in anthropology, since Malinowski, the godfather, has done research in the Trobriand Islands. And my colleague, Susanne Kühling from the University of Regina in Canada, asked me, a Highlander, if I would join her on a 2-month boat tour twice around the Kula Circle as a filmmaker. I said yes. At the time I said yes, I actually didn't believe the project was ever going to happen. 2 years later, it did happen. And we set off around the Kula Ring. When I told this my family, my Papua family in the highlands, they said, well, if you go to the ocean, be careful, saltwater and big plus something. But you should know that you have the power of the mountain with you. So ocean and mountain is a good combination, I think. And I found that also on this incredible journey that we made. Some just very brief data before I will show 20 minutes of my latest film, which is called Voices of Kula, and which we just released and which is currently touring a couple of festivals. The idea for this project started not from an anthropological side, but was actually established by Kula players in Milne Bay, Papua New Guinea. So they came to my colleague Susanne and asked her, and they said, the elders, we see that Kula exchange, which is so important to us, is deteriorating. There's a lot of cheating, there's a lot of problems. It's going down and we are scared to lose this piece of our culture. And we fear especially that Western economy and the impact of money will destroy the system. Can you do anything to help us? We would like to visit all the islands of our fellow Kula players. We could never afford to do that. And we would like to discuss this problem with them and come up with strategies for solution. So this is a big, big task. And we were very honored actually to be asked to do that. And we felt very, very good as anthropologists for once not being the ones who actually initiate a project, but for becoming tools basically, or facilitators for, in this case, the Kula chiefs to do something that they found important. I'm not going to talk about what Kula is, because I hope you can get that from the film in a couple of minutes. Just for how we're going to proceed now, we'll see 20 minutes of the film, and then we will zoom in my colleague Susanne Kühling from Canada, because she's the real expert on the topic. And we will, of course, have Sanna with us on stage, who is, as you have seen, and you have all heard him talk before, a very renowned canoe builder and much more in the region. He must have a project Lomi Plateau, I think. He knows about our project. And you will especially have the chance to ask all questions that are related to the navigation aspects in the boats to Sana, and all the other, please feel free to ask us. I think before I talk too much, let's just start and watch these. I should say it's 20 minutes from a 90-minute film. So it's just a little impression. And who's interested in seeing the whole film will have chances to do so. Okay, let's start. Enjoy watching.
This type of yam is one of the special yams in my community in Dobo Island. We use those type of yams, so we feed people who are special to us. This afternoon, it's going to be a meal for departure for the team living Dobo Island to go around all the Seko, cooler places, cooler islands. In the cooler system, there are things that are going wrong. And this expedition is we trying our best to put things together. Then the new generation of cooler players and the system of trading will be back to the original way.
Hula is a traditional game. I call it a traditional game, playing with the bagi and mwali, the share money. So the mwali go one way and the bagi go the other way. They go to the partners. So it goes in a ring.
Ega une. Apara edada. Idada kisina buana. Ara mau yau. Ada begi kap-kapea nau. Ida bego soara. Ara masura na buana mia.
Kura means kukin bata kura. Eu do kumada ona wale before pas besiakit. Kukin bata kura betua kasopi karu mua tabaki buara boset. Tadu mal tetamasis.
Roa Tamaya 2016 enata Mwali Erua ya pirina emunga ebuna rikuriku ta ebuna tumuda tubuh. Kalau orang kita ambil buka rumah. Isa bagi emula. Isa bagi anuaya oh. Oke ya be. Ya boleh oh na apelei be enega. Udorolo be era ena usau. Tawa di anak era ena usau ngono nano. Ada semua disigia gia iya. Ni mamunya be bara. Bebe ya be. Ya paiso. Bobo anak. Bobo. Oke, kamu. Mungkin. Oh, bagi outside.
We can mention and call the names of any bagi, any moli, because we have all these bagis and molis, their names are passed over from our ancestors from generation to generation to our day.
People's names are written on them so that when they pick them up, they will know that this bagi or Moali has or have gone through, or these people have touched these objects.
This one here is the person's name. And this blue one here is this bagi's name. Before you get into a game, we have to know how to play the game, and we have to know the rules, and we have to know the channels too. I have to go around with elder people, so we'll be, they'll be talking, I'll be listening, and then I have to study which one's a big channel and which one is a small channel. So which people are playing in high ranked buggies, and which people are playing in big lion.
They know which one is a high value and which one is a low value. The new ones that come into to be used in the game are the low value. So the ones that have been going around are of high value.
Une uko au anatuta imiami be isakuwa sibe anayakwa robai enega sana betie burubu.
In Dobu, the word we use for grading those high value bagi and moali, we call them dagura, feather. Okay. So feather sits at the top.
A newly cut object will be very thick,
Like this one.
like this one. But this has been in the system for some times, so now it can be ranked as a high value object.
Oh,
All right, this is a high quality bag in the Pura Sheko. It is quite yellowish color because it has gone for ages around the Pura ring. And here it's the A tree. The disc of the bag is very, very smooth, and also they are already almost to break. It's a very long time baggy. You can see this baggy is nearly done. It's quite thick. It's still thick, not like these two. They are very thin, almost breaking. This shows us that it has been done for some times. The beauties are different, has made the differences. But according to a cooler trader, he will prefer the best is this because he will be more richer in gold as a rich person and wealthy person than that he receives this.
Mananati, Yave, money and a tagi for millions, Tarasa Udumedume, thousands, Tarasa Udumedume, hundreds, Tarasa Udumedume. That is Anamaya and a Yapuesa. But I see the Dagula and a stout tau, ya, tau million a sugar. And I got 1,000 in us, 100 in us. Eta and I got Imota unit betens. Get to Tana and I, the Tuta and I,
tarune ei taudi 100 enas be gete tens ana togi ai now gete tugai nuanua da be dagura tagito
Yaru yaru akiwate Yesu agusto timana Uda boge bige Igo Wate sida Ieniki Taudito botana niki Awalisida ebari Beona maya ini emuyena idaewa ya tomota ewe uyoshi emise ye abosinu atube udakie waiwayedi Udaitai isidi.
Pero waule ikikula mkashikuwa kura. Okay, ikikula kura. Vaigua mwari. Okay. Yegu bawa. Idamba weka mtatamoti gena kule. Geni kwa ali mtatamoti. Yegena kule mtatamoti. Idamba kaa vaigua. Hai baka mwari. Okay, bawa boka free.
Because of cooler trade, we know each other. Like the member, he knows me, I know him.
But we sometimes never, we don't meet them, but we only know the names by mentioning them because we got it from there, and then they will tell us that's how we communicate. We have to know the name around the ring.
Even though we are a stranger to that area or a village, but when we say that we are from Dog, they know exactly we are in the Fularu. So they will refer us back to our ancestors. Do you know this old man? And then when we tell them, yes, that's my boo or that's my uncle, and that is where they will kill the pig. They will do anything, kill the chicken, and they will make very big feast. And that is how we are going to be treated until the day that we will leave that place.
When there's this, okay, it brings a period of mourning and sorrowfulness when we stand a tree, a stick, and put coconut on top, something like putting a fence. This beach is forbidden for any Kura trader to launch his canoe until the time is set for the person who is concerned to come and open the gate. The partner from the other island has to lead rest of the Kura players. So when he blows his conch shell and hanging a moali or bagi, symbolizing that he's unlocking the gate.
Bosiuna. Kasih sinyaman naga. Ida satu bodohnya ada. Ini tugas. Batu asa gege. Una mai bona satu bodohnya ni batu mai bona bebe. Iku tomo takata ame. Be kau mana usi un.
Toki tua tutarura na mo katanya tu bersama lagi una batu tagi paru be ida umia sipu sini dari asi be. Gete be ulia ini
Dia relate negasi. Dia ali lao sila kapat di mulia lah sesungguhnya tu kasi. Besi awak gua. Kita kamu orang kan tanah apa gua nak tiap pukul now. Ya ada pertanyaan kami tu now the restriction is taken away. Communities are free to pass on their values and norms. Ada muat dekat begitu. Tak tukar nuna boleh ada awan yang asal orang ada natu. Tahu awak buat pasal ayai. Nak kata saya, mana boleh yang kata. Betul. Aisyah tak mau pukul. Bukan nak kata. Una buena mala para mí. Sao vậy? Bộ tài. Yegu namo yegu ayek kidam. Kaisai ya gara kuna ba yegi bar basis. Banu ko ito kakal ko kuro pa. Ito tao ba banu pala kuro pa edi yegi basis. Yegi bar kinas. Bura mar biri kinas. Boboy. Yegi muton makara kinas. Bo tano ko give a problem ko tabo boy na tamo na mo di kulas boboy. What's the purpose of
This is for the canoe. The canoe is from me and going to this another brothers. This food is for me for that canoe. And that canoe will go to this one go said for Kula.
during my ancestors' time? So when they died, and the water that we used to drink and carve these things, okay, they ended over to me, and I drank that water. That's usually why I'm doing these things. Every design is a meaning. So you can have a look at the eagle there, looking down. So this eagle is a very, very big thing in, I mean, especially this area here. Okay, this eagle, when you go like fishing, eagle will not take time. As soon as eagle goes down, fish already. So that's the story of eagle. Okay, when we go for cooler, there's no time. Once eagles gets there, already gets the buggy and morning. That's the reason why we carve eagle must be there. So you understand. This is the tool I use. I make sure no one will use this tool.
Cooler canoes, you will never buy it with money or with rice. On cooler canoe, it needs only Malian bag. It's my canoe. And it's purposely used on the cooler. When you have this type of canoe, you are the cooler man. So you can go place to place.
How many people?
I get about maximum, I get 5. If I load 5, I have space to sleep. It's quite hard life on the cooler canoes. How to look after the cooler canoes is almost looking after the baby. You will never leave the canoe. Every day with the glue, or the canoe's glue is strong. Just a special glue. It's a tree roots. So one good thing on the canoe, because Kula canoe, it doesn't need you to get fuel or buy anything. On Kula canoe, you just run, it's free. So I love canoe much better than being.
Ay, muy malas bolet na yung no.
Bores, bores.
Yes.
Okay, until we have soon Susanne in, just some little bit of information. So I'm sorry it broke up so abruptly, but I just took 20 minutes. And of course, the rest is much more. So we didn't have the credits with all the names of the islands and the people, unfortunately. We have visited about 36 or 38 islands twice. And we went around the Kula Ring twice, because you probably can guess why. Once we followed the route of the Bagi, and the other time we followed the route of the Moali. So we went this way and then that way. And we have come up with some really interesting results, actually. One thing being a huge archive of Kula shell. We documented more than 1,200 active Kula shells, which is very interesting because a couple of years earlier, there was an expedition from the Explorer Club Washington, and they stated that Kula doesn't exist anymore and that there are actually no more objects. So we just found 1,200, and that's surely not all. So I assume the reason why is because this project was actually initiated by the chiefs themselves. And we took a long time, and you can't just go on a boat, go to these islands and then say like, hi, here I am, please bring out your valuables. This is ridiculous. So it was a great privilege to be part of it. Susanne is here, thank you. So this is my colleague, Susanne. I'm just probably going to sit over there now with Sana. And Sana, you have met a lot of people you know in the film, I can guess, because we're from the same area. Okay, thank you. So maybe Susanne, great having you here tonight in Berlin, all the way from Regina, Canada. Maybe would you just like to say a couple of words before we go and ask Sana about the boat aspects a bit more? Can't hear you yet.
Thank you so much for zooming me in. I hope everything works. Can you hear me now? Great. So I'm a little bit delayed, but that's because I'm far away. And I'm so happy that you could zoom me in. That's really nice of you. So as for the project, I would say it makes a huge difference if you ask the elders of a place of what service we could bring to them, as Gina was mentioning already. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do anything in this regard, because normally when you visit as a stranger, the elders don't care about you and they would not show the Kula shells. They're valuables, they are hidden in a house. So thanks to everyone who contributed to this project. We were all volunteers, nobody got paid except for Gina a little bit. And it would not have worked in any other way, I'm sure. So as for the canoe part of it, I was hardly ever allowed to sail or to paddle on a canoe, because there's some idea that women on a canoe may be risky, attracting flying witches or other sea creatures. So they thought I was way too white and way too obviously different, and I would attract all of those things right away. Maybe Sana can share a little bit about that as well. I don't know whether you have the same ideas, but if it hadn't been on a motorboat, I don't think I could have survived this. Being on a canoe is really tough, much tougher than it seems. Thank you.
Okay, should we maybe just start with questions and then we go into a dialogue? Because I think the film was also pretty full on with information. I'm not sure who of you is really familiar with the topic of Kula, and we didn't actually lecture it because there are lectures and seminars about Kula only. It's very complex. But would you have a question maybe? Or should I just talk a bit more about that?
So is Kula an equal exchange or can you kind of trick your partner?
This is the problem. There's a lot of trickery going on. And I'm sure Susanne can tell you about that in more detail. That was one of the reasons why we went, because the elders actually complained about too much trickery going on in Kula today, because the young people don't learn it properly anymore, apparently. So they can be tricked easily by the elders, even if they are willing to learn the rules. Each of these shells has a specific name and a specific biography. They are more or less like persons, I would say. And they travel around the ring and they have their stories. And as you have heard or seen in the film, the older they are, the more rounds they have traveled around the ring, the more valuable they are. And then there are some old people who really know how to make copies. And they just make like fake copies of the really valuable Kula shells and make them look old, you know, by scratching them a bit. And then they give them to the new Kula players who don't know about the whole system very well. And they get an incredibly valuable counter object for it. Yeah, so that's one of the points. But Susanne, maybe you would like to add up on that.
There were questions.
Sorry.
Yeah. Actually, because Sana, did you want to comment on that? So.
I'll just go ahead. I'll be. I can
come in later.
Yes. Okay. Explain some more things.
Yeah. So you listen first, and then you explain. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting, but because you'd said you wanted to ask Sana about the canoes, I just thought there'd be a moment.
Sure. I mean, this is always a good, because Susanne just mentioned the canoe thing. So maybe you would like to pick up on that, Sana. Is it taboo for women to be on canoes, to climb on canoes, to work in?
For Kula canoes, they had a special space or part. That's where ladies were allowed to get on. Not all over the canoe that a lady will get on. Ladies are allowed to get on in the front of the outrigger. That's where it's allowed for ladies to get on. Because Kula canoe is not built nothing original. It's built with customary wedges. So they used to use customary wedges to seam and carve and then tie and build a canoe. So it's not easy for ladies to get on any of the part where it was allowed. That's where ladies get on. Thank you.
Two questions. One is, could you say something about the wonderful songs that we heard at various points in the film, particularly the first two? And also, Sana, as I recall, isn't your brother a Kula player as well?
Yes, thank you. That's a good question. At this moment, my brother Justin is with the Kula chiefs in Woodlock Island now, taking part in the Kula exchange. Because my sailing canoe, Tawali Pasana, is representing the Kula trade, and it has Kula partners now. So we are in the system of Kula exchange now. Thank you.
Yeah, about the songs, that was for me a very, very fascinating experience, because we were traveling on the boat with 18 men, most of them chiefs from Milne Bay, or Kula chiefs at least. And they were singing every night on the boat, just like, and this is this wonderful a cappella songs. And I think Susanne can tell you more about that, but these are actually church songs, they're Christian songs.
Yeah, it's the Methodist hymns from the hymn book that everyone basically tries to have, and most songs are memorized, and they do sing quite a bit, not just for Christmas when they go around and get powdered and perfumed for singing in these small groups, but also when there are other opportunities. For example, when people have died and they stay up all night, they are usually singing groups as well. I always love these songs so much. And when I see the film, I hum along in my mind, and it makes me feel like homesick.
Okay, thank you. I have to join on the singing. In Kula, exchange is a custom. It's our culture. We are traveling in Kula trip or voyage. There's no argument. There's no getting threatening anything. We always be happy, singing, dancing in Kula voyage. So that's the Kula system.
Okay, may I ask something? Because my knowledge is from ancient, let's say, times from now, which is just what Bronisław Malinowski written about Kula in his books. And here is the question. One question is that when Kula has, well, trip has used to start, the men, because it was the men's thing, used to stop for a first night outside somewhere, not in their own place, to feast, retide things in the canoe, and then only continue. Is it still a custom like this?
You can probably answer to that.
Yeah, it depends on where you are. You know, there's the southern and the northern Kula ring, and they have slightly different ways of doing it in those details. So I have not seen that in the trips that I was participating in, but then if you go with a chartered boat, every day costs so much money. So even on normal Kula expeditions, you can't quite afford that any longer. You need a relative from town who's sponsoring the boat, preferably a boat owner who then can also use it for their own cargo business. They do usually stop at the end, or they used to, where I work in the southern region, to compare what they brought home and to measure the value against the other objects that they brought home, so that everyone knows the result of an expedition. This is now often omitted for whatever kind of reasons. And on the trip, they were often mentioning that in the discussions, saying that they should really reinstate that so that everyone has a better idea of the value, and there would be less opportunity to cheat, to go on your own by dinghy, do whatever shady business you manage to get through with the help of money, rice, and so on. Because if group expeditions are actually having a bigger purpose in terms of teaching the young and illuminating everyone on what the value of the individual objects are vis-a-vis the others, then some kind of some level of cheating would perhaps go down quite a bit. So the idea was to stop one-on-one Kula travel and return to those expeditions. Yet expeditions are hard to make if you don't have canoes, because you need a sponsor in town with a boat. So we are really in a different universe now when we talk about Kula compared to Malinowski's times.
Okay. Can I get a question of my own in? Because that's, Sana, as far as I understand, that is part of your project, right? The canoe building. Can you tell us a bit about that? How that fits in? You promised us earlier you would tell us a bit more now. So
yeah, for Kula expeditions, as he said, Kula, we are traveling for Kula is something that is very special. As soon as we reach in the island, we have to stop it somewhere in the island that all our Kula canoes will be there. And our chiefs there to, have to guide us, make something to protect us. And before they will blow away corn shell, and the receivers there, they'll see, will make a banner smoke, make a thick smoke. That's sign of Kula exchange, that we are already settling on that path. So our receivers, they'll get this sign, and then when we are sailing in, they will blow corn shell. You see everybody's here moving to receive us. It's so exciting and scary. If you miss the, try to cheat, you will die.
Through magic.
Yeah.
So there's a magic in Kula. Magic is very strong in Kula as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
think it brings actually in a problem, because nowadays everyone is Christian. So not all Kula magic is passed on to the next generation. And while I know that people still die of Kula, especially the young people, don't have that tool anymore in their hands. So they feel very disempowered when they lose their objects due to someone not returning whatever promised.
Hello, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name's Mark Collins. I'm a PhD student in anthropology from France, and I study in Papua New Guinea in the New Island province on the island of Lawangai. I find one word that you've been using to describe Kula very interesting. Several people have called it a game. Yet you just said, if you do it wrong, you die. This sounds like a very serious game. And I'd like to ask you more about this word. Like, I feel that maybe it's something in anthropology that's happened a lot, is that anthropologists have neglected the side that things can be fun and can be done for entertainment. And they've tended to emphasize the ritual and the spiritual and the very deep aspects of things, and where perhaps sometimes things are really just games. And we all play games.
I think
so.
That's
Could
a
you
question
comment
for
on
Sana,
this?
right? That's a question for Sana first.
Indeed,
please.
yes, yeah.
He wants me to say. May I? Okay. I would say that the word game is a bit misleading, but it's like what people use. You play Kula, and they themselves call it a game. At the same time, it is like, let's say it's a kind of a social chess game, like you have to memorize a lot of paths of objects, like each object, the own path, who had it before. You play it well, because I'm not going into the details, so Sanne knows much more about that, but that's going to would take hours and hours. The thing is, these objects are played in a way that they meet again at certain places, because they marry, and then they go on their journeys, and then they meet again. And so you have to be very strategic. So this is maybe a bit of the game aspect of it, the thinking, the chess, if you want. But much more important is, and Susanne can probably say that too, is it's like a safety network. It's a social insurance. It's like connected to exchange, to trade. It saves you in times of crisis. If you don't have food, your Kula partner is obliged to you forever. So even if you have never met him in person, like when we have now done this tour, most of the Kula players we had on board haven't met partners that were like farther away than, let's say, 3-4 islands, because how to get there, right? So they saw them for the first time, but they knew them through the recalling of the tours of the objects. And so they are already obliged to each other. Anything they want, they can request and they will get it. Yeah. So it's like more, I think this is the more important aspect. Maybe you would like to add on?
Yeah, I mean, as we say, poker is a game, but people die from it as well. So there are serious games and there are fun games. So this is definitely a serious game in this regard. And I would like to add that kula is actually not a noun, but a verb. Ta'una una, we are playing kula. And I'm sure, Sana, you would see the same in your languages. I don't speak the Northern Masim languages, but the first mistake was, I believe, to see it as a noun. Kula is not a noun, it is an action. And the word means something like giving away. It's also used in other contexts, it's at least in Dobu. And in this regard, I think if we listen carefully what they say a lot about it's fun. The profit is the food. The hospitality is what makes us go, and so on. And yes, we definitely in the old literature have read it as an old boys club where important stuff happens behind closed doors. And that's not really the situation that I have experienced. The role of women in hospitality, for example, has been totally neglected in all the literature.
Just a question for Sana. My question is, Sana, how often do you play, how often do you play Kula Festival in Papua New Guinea? And is there like you do it once a year or like throughout the year? Is there like a season for it? Because if you're gonna use your sailing canoe, you're probably gonna wait for the for the right wind to travel to the other islands. So how often do you play these games, son?
Thank you. We play the game in a year, or it depends to the chiefs. Wherever they are satisfied and put a date or month, that's where the chiefs move. Because Kula travels clockwise and anti-clockwise. So that's why they used to go for Kula, and then other chiefs has to sit and plan for the next trip.
And I think my next question, Sana, is do all the islands that play Kula Festival, do they have their own canoe to travel around, or is it like there's only like a few islands, they have their own canoe and travel along to all the islands to play Kula?
Thank you. Yes, they like Kirowinas, they use their own Kula trade canoe to travel to Dobu. Okay, Dobu, they use their own traditional canoe, Kula canoe, to come to Normanby. Normanby, they will get their own canoe to Koyagauga or Dawson Island. And Dawson Island, they have to get their own traditional canoe to Woodlock Island. And Panayati, Missima, Rossell, Sudest, this is how Kula trade, transferred.
I think my last question, Sana. In the film, I saw one of the player put the Kula cells inside a backpack. Is it a traditional a PNG bag, or is it you looking into doing it like a real a traditional bag to carry around? Because you wanted to revitalize traditional culture, knowledge, and Kula trade in PNG. Are you thinking of using backpack, or because it's waterproof, or are you gonna weave your own bag?
Come again, please.
You're asking me?
Can you ask me again, please?
Sana, my question is, because I saw in the film, the one, they're using a backpack, like today's backpack. My question is it like a traditional bag in PNG? No, it's just a joke. But are you thinking of, replacing that by weaving the traditional bags that are used back in the days? Because I think that's what you wanted to revitalize by bringing back the tradition and the old culture. I don't know what your thoughts on that. So
For that, yes, we want to, bring our cooler trade up again.
I think the bag is the smallest of our problems right now. Most people normally nowadays have rice bags that they take as carry-ons, purses, or what you want to call them. And they are still coconut and other kind of woven bags, but they aren't very, very normal on a day-to-day basis. It's like wearing pants and not a red lap lap or something like that. So the backpack we see in the films actually from a secondhand store in Cairns, because I supplied rather waterproofish bags for the expedition so that the notebooks won't get wet. And so they are using those for every purpose as well. Backpacks are nice. We know that. We use them ourselves, right?
Sana, how did Kula get started in the first place, and how long has it been going on?
Oh, thank you. On how Kula started, that I can't go on that because I have no idea about that. I will trick you. I'm just a young, So Kula started in how many years? Maybe Susan has no. So Susan can answer us.
The eldest Kula shell, the Moali named Nuratu, was found about a couple years ago, maybe 20 years ago or so, on a reef in the Trobriand area. And it has been carbon dated in the last few years. They go like 500 years back. And the archaeologists say that that was a time when there was a lot of innovation, pottery, and so on happening through immigrants from the West. And we're still not really sure, but it's definitely not a thousands of thousands year old custom, but perhaps goes back to about 500 years or so, which is a long, long time, obviously.
I have a question about things which might be adopted from Europeans. First of all, the people are shaking hands. Is this an original custom or adopted from Europeans? And also the music, this is the same system which we are using with 12 half tones and chords and so on. Is this original or is this adopted from Europeans?
Susan, you answer.
Okay, of course, that's all part of the Western influence. Like people say, good morning, good evening, thank you, you're welcome. Politeness changes over time, and they have learned that this is the polite way of doing things. A handshake, I don't think they would have shaken hands in the past with all the sorcery fears and so on. I'm not sure, but I'm quite convinced that it's new. Well, new, 100 years is also a long time.
Sana, you have, you were born and raised on Basilaki, and you're married and live on Nuakata. So how are those two islands part of Kula? I think one time you said that Nuakata was on a major route, or many of the valuables come through Nuakata, maybe more than Basilaki, or could you just say something about how Kula is for those two islands?
Kula travels through all the islands. It covers all the islands where there's people lives, because we are all do the trade. So that's why we are connected to all the islands, and we can speak the island languages too. As somebody that who plays a Kula, he speaks all the island languages. because of the partner to communicate and play the money. That's why I'm used to Nuakat.
If I could add to that, the Buana Buana region where where Tuba Tuba and Basilaki and these islands are a bottleneck. So that's why Dawson became really important. Everything went through Dawson or Kayagaugau Island when Chief Malaweyai was still holding the threads, and there aren't that many islands between Woodlark and Duau, so you can't sail all the way without stopping there. And yet, in other places, there are more Kula communities on one island, so things spread out much more. But I think in the literature it says Tuba Tuba was a main point. And this is also because the Bagi oysters are harvested mostly further east. And that means that they do come into Basilaki and these islands from the east. Nowadays, there is a bit of a broken link. Maybe Sana could say about that, the conflict islands now being basically in White Hand and being a resort that saves turtles, while in the past it was a stopover spot where you could hunt a couple of turtles and make sure you got enough food on the way.
Sana, do you want to comment? And you'll have the last word if you do. Do you want to comment?
No.
Because then the time is up for this session. We want to thank all three of you. This for us was the most challenging technology-wise, and maybe it's also the one moment when we thank the three of you, Susanna, Gina, and Sana, for sharing this story with us, or the sort of interrelated stories, but also a moment where we thank our technicians in the back. Just, it's going to be a big, big round of thank you for everyone. So thank you. Thank you. And so just that for everyone to know what's happening, we're just going to set up the stage now for the final round. And again, thank you. This morning, I didn't think we'd make it this far almost, but here we are. Give us 5 minutes, we'll set up, and then we'll have a very focused final round in this room. Okay, thank you. Schön.
Sollte es einmal nach Wien verschlagen, bitte melden Sie sich.
Das machen wir.
Herzlich willkommen. Und vielleicht unten kann ich das auch etwas sagen.
Ja, herzlichen Dank. Herzlichen Dank.
Gut, also dann jetzt noch fürs sehr positives Erlebnis. Ich glaube, das ist, glaube ich, sehr.
Ja, gut. Die Sache klingt ernst. Aber da ist die Cookie nicht dabei. Bist du dir sicher?
Genau.
Yes, yes, I was so we met earlier. Oh, yeah. It's an amazing. Oh, I hope so. I have the films, I have the same tutorials, I have all the. It's worse. And I started searching for it.
So, but yeah, I'd love to get down from so
I was.
Nur, dass du nicht denkst, ich wollte ihn.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, okay, like I said.
So the last event, the last round of our conference starts now. Thanks to all of you who have held out for these, what must be like more than 20 hours of conversation and thinking together. We have now an illustrious panel of Oceanian practitioners, scholars, and thinkers on stage. You have heard all of them before. They have all been introduced before. So I will do just a very brief round of introduction in a minute. And then we have decided that we want each of our invited guests to be able to bring in a brief statement about what they have experienced here. They have not only been part of this conference, which was open to the public, but they have arrived already on Monday evening, and we have spent a whole afternoon in the Bootskubus in the Humboldt Forum, where they had a chance to study very close up on the closing day of the museum, the boats. On Wednesday, we have spent an entire day in Dahlem in the storage spaces of the Ethnological Museum. Thanks again to Leonie Gärtner and to Dorothea Dieters, who facilitated those two visits. Those visits were special and important. We feel not only for you guys, but also for the institutions we have visited, because there was so much knowledge that you could bring to the items in the storage facilities, which were unlabeled. There was also so much knowledge you could bring to the boats, which were not assembled in the ways, at least some of them, which you think they should have been assembled. And I think that shows how important it is also, we believe, for the institutions to continue the conversations that we had today. But we don't really want this to be about what the museums need, but what you would hope for in the future, what your own visions are, what your own hopes are in terms of revitalizing your ancestral traditions, and how you may possibly think what you've experienced here, what you've seen here, but also how the museums may help you in bringing those visions to life. The people in the room are, and I'm just doing the rounds, Setareki Ledua from Fiji, Theolofani Brun from Samoa, my namesake, Professor Lars, except I'm not Christian. This is Lars Christian Koch, who is, I think one can only say this in German, Direktor für die Sammlung der Staatlichen Museen zu Berlin im Humboldt Forum, which basically trades into his head of collections here in this very house. We are privileged to have you here, and we are very happy that the head of the institution in which we find ourselves in terms of the collections has joined us. That's important and it matters to us. Thank you very much for being here. Sana Kolijon from Milne Bay PNG, Mario Benito from Poloat, his son Lolobayong Benito from Saipan. Then we have Luke Vaikavi from Taumako. Desi Betty Bosi, also Taumako. Mimi George, Kauai, Hawaii. And my wife, also Kauai, Hawaii. And we have joining us, you guys have a turn around and watch your backs for one moment. Stan Wolfgram, who's here with us today to present even more regions of the Pacific whom we have not been able to represent at this event. Stan grew up in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but he is of German, not least, as the last name reveals, but especially Cookie Islander and Tongan descent. And he is a mover and shaker, especially in the context of trying to revive and revitalize Cookie Islander traditions and making them important and relevant for more sustainable futures. So Stan, we are very privileged and happy to have you here too. Stan, can you hear and see us?
I can
and
hear
we hear
you.
you, yay. Okay.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, Stan. And shall we just start the round as we do? And we have agreed that Herr Koch will come in last, so he has had a chance to listen to everybody's hopes and can then respond. Is that fine? Seta, take it away. Yeah, oh, then Mef, take it away.
Karen, I was hoping we'd go last, but you know, the women like to have the last word, right? Yeah. Anyway, well, it's been wonderful. And we really appreciate the effort that you all, not just you two, but all of the many support troops have put into this wonderful few days. The takeaway that I have is that it's wonderful to have so many bits of new information, correct information about some old things, correcting some misconceptions. And what I would hope for was that it would shake up the bureaucrats and facilitate the quick correction of some misinformation that I know some of our museums at home harbor, and which they say, oh, it takes us 5 years to change one line on a label in a case, which is, to my mind, absolutely ridiculous. And I would certainly like to see the speeding up of that process so that correct information can get out to people quickly.
I would like to say that to me, this event, this program, this experience with everyone here has been, I hate to say this word all the time, but it's a bit of a miracle. It's been long awaited. It's been worked very hard for many decades by people who are right here and who are the leaders of the schools, the efforts, the perpetuating communities who have perpetuated voyaging knowledge, the core of Pacific cultures, and who have at great effort, great expense, requiring great support, have come prepared specifically to make connections, to make partnerships, to reform or form networks of just the people who are here and the institution that we're in, so that young people can learn. And so that this knowledge can be, gee, I want to say accessed. In Vancouver, we were saying mobilized by people sailing on the routes, using the ancestral knowledge. And the effort of everyone here is to is specifically on that, to release it, observe it, feel it, and mobilize it through training youth, bringing youth through the experience of it, and thereby forming the relationships with everything, with the ocean, the animals, the stars, the plants, and everything that is around us, the weather, an interactive relationship, which is what's lacking in a holistic way in almost all science, modern science, I would say. And so, yeah, I mean, I've said this already, but I just want to acknowledge, I can't, I have to say again how big an effort it is, and how much I appreciate that I lived long enough to see you guys here and see them, see this subject be put on stage, you know, highlighted and honored and respected in a way that has not happened. And we're talking about how we can all be involved in these relationships and in support of them. And that's the subject we need. So, thank you.
I think I would have to repeat or maybe put it simpler in what Mimi has just referred. Like for the Vakatamako projects has come a long way. And I think we have seen many things that have been done. And the first thing that I think I want to say is that we have come to especially like we did work on a curriculum, and I think Mimi was facilitating that for Taumako. And somehow along the way, I think the person that was assigned to do this maybe needed more help with creating a curriculum that can be put into school, that this knowledge, traditional knowledge, can be put into school through the formal education system for students to learn as part of their studies. But somehow that project was stopped due to no funding and something like that. So we still want to carry on with that. And I was today, this morning, especially when Professor Lars and Anya were talking about their presentation this morning, I was kind of proud of these traditional knowledge systems. And it was on my mind a long time ago. Like I was just asking myself, like, how can these wind positioning systems that Kaveh was talking about, or over generations after generations, how this has been developed by these people on the islands who are not educated, who have not gone through any informal through formal education system, or to learn of the sciences or whatever that this knowledge can be derived from, and how it has worked all through for them to sail from one island to another island using these traditional knowledges. And while I'm speaking for Taumako, like some of our people are concerned about how we can protect this knowledge, maybe about intellectual property rights. People were talking about that, how we can protect this knowledge to be ours while transmitted to others to learn from and to use it. But still we own that knowledge. How can we do that? That's my first question. How can we protect that from being exploited by others or by outsiders, as we can say? The other thing I want to see, or like, yeah, is that maybe from these discussions that we were having throughout these 2 days, these traditional knowledge that were being shared by these people, and also you as academics or professionals to like share with us. Maybe we can document this, or maybe we can prove these charts or things that our elders were using to sail or to navigate from islands to islands across the Pacific. Make science prove that to the people, like to others, so that we can be proud of that. So, oh yeah, Kaveya said that, and it's been proven that his chart or the wind positioning system is accurate to be used by other navigators. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to update it. Yeah, I'm Luke from the Ara Vaka Association in Solomon Islands. Yeah, and I and Betty, we are trying to set up that association, the Ara Vaka, with the support advice, with Dr. Mimi. Tamaki is a very isolated island. Although we are part of the Solomon, but we are feeling that we are not part of the Solomon because there's no what a regular service to that island in terms of education and health and other infrastructure. So we come up with the idea of setting up the Ara Vaka Tobacco Association is trying to revive the knowledge that we had from from our ancestors, or the knowledge that was generated from that island that had been fading when the British colonized the country, and things that we have to fade. So we try to revive that knowledge. So our plan is to set up a traditional school, try to teach our youth on our wind campus, as we know, presented today. Our culture, our protocols, cultural protocols, our songs, our custom stories, our language, was our language is not polluted with other language. So when an old man was telling us, not talking to you, understand. When the youth talking to you, like the mixing up the languages. So it's our aim of the Ara Vaka to try to set up the school and try to look back what discipline been done before and how we've been using and managing our resources. And we must learn to live within our means, what been provided the island. And furthermore, like how to protect our resources. The island was not big, it's about 5.7 kilometers long, with a population of about 500 now. And it was growing fast. It was back in 1979 and 1980, The population is like less than 100. From 80 to 2000 now, it's more than 500. So see, it's a very fast growing population now, and the island was very small. So it's our plan that if we set up that association, try to look at how can we preserve, how can we protect our land and see from exploitation from this global warming coming up to, and how the people in the village can understand their culture and try to respect what is in the island. Because we are now, most of our youth, they tend to to the city life, and when they come back to the village, like many, they bring in something that is not acceptable in the village, but the life was changing. They bring in something that, polluting our islands too. So we need to come up with a school and try to, take some people with knowledge about agriculture, about fishing, about tell us how to manage our rubbish in the island or how to protect our reefs. Anyway, so yeah, so we come up with that one and we try to build more Ara Vaka. As I said, shipping in that part of the country is very, so if we build more canoe, and then for sure we will be okay to transport our students to the nearest, island where they can board a vessel and go to the school. Yeah, we try to communicate with other friends in the islands, and I'm so glad to meet up with these, sailors and boat builders from the Pacific. We had 2 weeks now, we've been together, and I learned a lot from them. Me and Betty were talking that we should make a good network with this. Instead of try to revive all things, can we team together and we look at how to make a safe boat to be used within our islands. Like they will teach so some of their techniques how to make a safe boat to sail. Then they share that knowledge. So yeah, so the whole of Ara Vaka, that's a new, we start 2021. So it's a new organization that we try to start. So we start up. So we're trying to achieve our goals. The association already started in the Solomon Islands law. We got a constitution, our policies in place. But yeah, we try to meet our goals. We will sit in the museum here, and we're excited to see the one of our canoe in here. For personally standing beside that, it's like feel emotion to me, like how comes this canoe being very far, far, far? Then I end up here. Like, yeah, so I want to thank you to them, the museum. They get us around and they're very helpful, and we learn a lot from the tour when we tour in the museum, and we learn a lot, and we saw some of the things that our association that we plan to to revive, especially the baskets and the bowls there, and the spears that we used for hunting, some are there, and the lost kite fishing. That's what a kite that we set at museum. So yeah, so we learn a lot from that museum, and I'm looking forward for if the museum can help us to revive some of these, what I would say, the lost tools that we didn't have before. But like I got the pictures, we have to follow up on that one. I think, yeah, so not do. I think thank you all for supporting us, especially your presence with us. Like we feel honored when you all staying close to us, and I'm so glad that I've been chatting with some of you, and really it's really honored for me to to share and for you to say something about, and thank you for the business card that so honestly I will be contacting. I want to learn more from you and how to meet the organizational goal of our association, the Ara Vaka Association. So we are online, www.holau.org, the website that we're in. So looking forward to receive some good news from you about news, but some advice about how to succeed on our association to get it forward. So thank you too much.
Well, I'm just gonna keep this pretty short. I just want to thank everybody here, actually. I learned a lot from these people that are standing right beside me. I also want to thank Lars and Anya for all that they did for all of us over here, making us feel welcomed at home, like we're already part of this family. You guys are also part of the family. Like I said, you guys are now in our crew, our canoe. So welcome aboard. Yeah, Baylor. Well, it's been a learning experience for me. I think it's because like it's my first time to be out here and very far from my island. I learned a lot. It opened my, thoughts, my vision, and going to that museum, like it helped me realize that there's still more to learn about my culture. And the more that we dig deep, the more that we're gonna find out more about our culture. So that going to that museum really helped a lot, not just for me, but for all of us here. It made us feel more connected to our culture, made us feel more, how would I say this, motivated to learn more about our culture. So if it wasn't for this whole program, like what would happen? Like we wouldn't be here in the first place. So after all those things that I learned throughout my time here, like I know that I'm gonna go back home, back to Saipan, and like teach them, give them the knowledge that I just learned now, so it can help our generation like get curious about, oh, okay, this is my culture. I want to learn more about it, make them more interested. And by that, like it can really help our community grow, and it's gonna really like help all of us actually. And if it wasn't for all of you guys here, I wouldn't have that mentality to even be here in the first place, because man, you guys really did help a lot, especially for me and my father and everybody else here. So yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna keep it short, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, for sticking with us for 2 days. My son already said thank you to the host. And I think they already say what, like we're doing and then what we want, but I'm gonna say what I want. I'm gonna stay just straight to the point. Since these guys, 1, 2, 3, 3, sitting with me, they already have canoe in the museum, and I want my canoe to be displayed in the museum too. Bring me back over here, and I'll bring. If it's not like fit, because I can just like bring a model, a small model, at least like it's gonna display as my canoe. And it's not only my canoe, because like I represent the island of Saipan too, 500 sail, and maybe 2 canoe, 2 small canoe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to thank the hosting University of Berlin, and thank you to Meme George. I would like to thank
all the Pasana crews here sitting down in Pacific Voice in groups. And thank you all the listeners here. I'm Sanakole John, who you know, I'm from Millen Bay. I just finished my movies that you have seen. I will explain that I'm losing all my traditional my culture way of making canoes. As you see on the Kula expedition movie, they use dinghy and boat, which not fit without exchange. That's not the real. So as for Pasana group sitting here, I will revive, but who have somebody that himself can do something, build up, he has a support. So on behalf of my group, this is my request. To conclude it, I have to go through the museum. I am not there. I missed out in the museum. So yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me and sharing your spaces. Thank you to the hosts. Commonality is a big thing with meeting halfway with each other. One of our things is identity. We need to understand our past before we are able to navigate our future. Repatriation of the artifacts. That's a sensitive, hot topic, yeah. For me, it's in the sense of it's doing away. I'm glad that there are these spaces where this dialogue is open for it, but there's enough reflection of it. We need to actually action out now, right? And in doing that, there's quite a lot of movement and quite a lot of solutions. And that's great in that sense. So I'm trying to be as very politically correct as I can. Sorry, so I'm trying to choose my words, fine tune it. I love the fact that the artifacts are here. I love the fact that they're on display. Although it's the way they're being displayed. My request, if that is going to be heard in that sense, and that's where I guess these spaces are open for, less colonialism with the exhibition and more of a celebration, more of bringing a curriculum forward in sense of having bringing more leaders, more presenters, practitioners in being part of it. It's a celebration and it's acknowledgement of what is there and what was exchanged between the different cultures. Some people will use another term, but I'll say it was an exchange. And yeah, I think that's what I personally would like to see. Thank you. Dankeschön.
Vinaka, I think for me, I have a lot to take away from the last 2 days, from the last few days we've been here. and I'll say a few, and I probably have a request as well. Because I was sharing to a few for the last few days, and I've sailed around the Pacific, and then I have a drawer, and then I was wondering where I can see, at least, where I can find a kalia, at least a design of, where we have a design of kalia, where I can see the actual canoe of a alia and a kalia, which is the Tongan and Samoan drawer. And I happened to see the whole free model in the same room. And like I've said in my presentation yesterday, it took me half a day to sail around the Pacific in like 2,000 years ago. And for me to walk into the room and happen to see the same model and next to each other, I feel so proud and honored to, to share this space with you. And also I think, what we are hoping to get out from after this conference is there a possibility, is there a way that a museum can tie us together as a voyaging society where we can keep connecting to each other, and then maybe in like 3 or 4 years ago, and then we decided, they'll decide, okay, we're gonna have a canoe festival, and we're gonna have a Pacific canoe race, traditional canoe race, and then I'll have to be Sana's house, that's what I'm hoping, and to get in response to fly all the way here, and through different country, and that's what I'm hoping to get out of this. If there's a way that a museum or like a connection that we have can tie us together to keep our dream going and revitalize what we've been started for the few years. And also, my request is that if I hardly see any youths that are involved in this exhibition, and then I always challenge the youth back in Fiji, what are the foundations they're going to set out today to determine the future of their next generations in terms of revitalization, because in a way they too also wanted to at least have a little of appreciation of what the forefathers have left, and then in a way that we can keep the tradition alive and revive, and at least they can share the experience of our forefathers, and that's what I'm hoping that we can continue and continue to do in the next coming years. And also the request is that if if you are thinking of hosting another exhibition, maybe we can invite a lot of youth, that can be involved in this dialogue, because it's the old people now, like it's gonna be really hard to change their mindset. But if we're gonna start with the grassroots, with the young people and the youth, we may maybe have a hope that we can continue doing what we trying to revitalize our identity and what's most important to us, especially the indigenous people in the Pacific and around the world, and of course in a way that we can exchange a program, whatever whichever way it works, and yeah, so I got a fastest canoe, and I think I can beat Sana anytime and any day. So yeah, thank you.
Stan.
Kirana. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for allowing me to even be in this space with you guys on the stage there, even though I am back in the Pacific. And to join the rest of you, yes, I am in the most beautiful island in the South Pacific. Can you hear me okay?
No, the last bit was good.
Can you hear me okay, or is that coming through?
Yes, Stan, we hear you fine. Fanny just said that the last bit was not very audible. That was the part about the most beautiful island.
Yeah, I thought I'd join our Pacific Spirit. And yeah. Can I, you know, and I know I've been watching you guys over the last couple of days, so I pretty much sat through everything. You're 11 hours out, so I pretty much sat there from 11:30 at night till 8 o'clock in the morning. Amazing to see, amazing to watch. I put together a couple of slides. Is that okay? Can I put those up?
Sure.
Yep. Fine. Is that coming through? Just wondering if that's, yes, a little delayed. But you're picking up my audio?
Yeah.
Yep, you got my audio. Look, I just really want, I put it in a few slides and it's going to be pretty quick. Where I work is around that space of Pacifica, and Pacifica culture is a driver for social economic development. Not that you haven't heard this already, and I know you all understand, but Oceania, ancient knowledge is shaped by the Pacific Ocean ecosystem and the natural elements that bring it to life. All-encompassing Pacific knowledge brings not just our tangible world into focus, but equally our spiritual world. The two together form a unique Pacifica consciousness that spans the distance of time from the past to the present and into the future. What we do today is the future. As Pacifica, we are the children of the gods, this planet's last human migration, the last to be born to this earth by the gods. Our gods and ancestors are in all things, from the ocean to the stars and beyond. I am the ocean is me. Our relationships with the world are based on kin-centric values. I view the ocean as part of my kin. Today, these values are affirmed by our ancestral knowledge, which is used to guide our decisions moving forward into the future, walking backwards into the future. A significant amount of Oceania ancestral knowledge sits dormant in cosmopolitan museums around the world without a Pacifica voice. These objects, or taonga, treasured items, served ancestral Pacifica communities in the past. When reconnected to today's Pacifica generations, they serve as beacons for our values, able to take our story to worldwide audiences. To serve Pacifica and global communities together, raising awareness of critical issues such as climate change through art, activism, innovation, education, global union, corporate consciousness, and make changes, i.e. the legal status of the Wanganui River, now recognized as a living entity with the same rights as a human being. To help understand what I'm trying to say is we created a pledge for life. Return the first fish you catch to the sea and plant every child's placenta under a tree. Then teach your children to do the same, to love and protect the gift of life and the gift of our planet. Our relationships of the natural world to a planet covered in 72% of oceans, to the Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean in the world. These natural world relationships are key to finding solutions to humanity's greatest threats of ocean degradation and climate change. Today's cosmopolitan museums have an opportunity as the beneficiaries of our taonga to come together to tell our stories. By researching alongside Pacifica to rightly determine the correct whakapapa lineage or heritage of all taonga in their possession, to recognize the sovereignty of Pacifica descendants in terms of all aspects concerning their taonga, their knowledge, to respectfully explore kaitiakitanga or guardianship roles on behalf of Pacifica descendants, to support and promote with Pacifica awareness and education to public, corporate, and political entities, the merits of traditional Pacifica knowledge and concentric values, to support and develop platforms that provide for Pacifica people a voice in the global climate change and ocean degradation conversation, especially concerning the Pacific Ocean, Moana Pacifica. In our last slide, to support our Moana Pacifica project. This is a touring exhibition of the world's greatest collection of 3D printed and authentic Pacifica artifacts linked to our ocean. Multi-format film with animation, augmented reality, live performance, and static displays that will tell our love stories of the Pacific Ocean for the first time from the cultural perspective of Indigenous Pacifica people. That's my little statement. I hope that that's something that I could offer to this conversation. That's me.
Thanks, Atonstein.
Me now, okay. So first I must say that I have to apologize that I couldn't be here for the last 2 days. It's really embarrassing somehow that I missed so much. And this is what I just realized now when you were talking about the last 2 days and maybe even the last 4 days, seeing the Hall of the Boats and of course the collection in Dahlem. What I could make out here is, and this I really appreciate, that you're talking about knowledge, about the tradition and knowledge of your culture, of your identity. And what I know as an anthropologist, that knowledge is very strong and knowledge is very fragile. I would just go to explain a little bit what I mean about this, because for my anthropological work, and this has nothing to do with Oceania, the Pacific, sail, I'm an ethnomusicologist. So I know about intangible heritage a lot, about the knowledge and how fragile it is. And I also know that material culture is only living with the knowledge connected to the material culture and also the performance. This is something you mentioned in a certain way. The objects are living in cultural settings, in performance structures. When I did my research in India and I was learning the music, I was learning the instruments, and I had to learn the making of the instruments. So I went over to an instrument maker who was working in the line as the last generation. So he knew he had no students. And then he discussed with me how to protect his knowledge. So what I did, I learned from him and I made the documentation on the manufacturing of the instruments, about the playing style and about the basic ideas. And we had this commitment that I will preserve it in the museum. I will just open up parts of the knowledge. Some parts are definitely not being openly discussed. This is something other instrument makers will definitely learn in a different way. And we found out that this, and this was really important for him to have it in a museum, because this means for him safeguarding for the next generations, that you can always get back to this structure of knowledge and revitalize it if necessary. But this is only possible if you have a kind of network being involved, network of knowledge bearers, of people who can transmit the knowledge. So what can a museum do with this? First, inviting you to come to see the collection. But I think this is not enough. We had this during the opening ceremony here in Berlin last year. It's much more important to get people into contact. Exactly what's happening here now, that you can talk to each other. For me, it can be a kind of, I don't know if this would be correct, but anyway, kind of cooler, you know, something circulating, something exchanging, handing over, safeguarding it. In this case, it would mean that in the future, people would come here working on the knowledge, but also transmitting it over the Pacific in a kind of exchange circle. We can play our role here, definitely. We have this project called the Collaborative Museum. For the next 3 years, we will definitely have residencies here so that people can work on the collection. You've seen it for a day, and you know you need much more time to work on this, on the collection. And we would like to give the opportunity to do so. We will definitely keep in contact. And it's absolutely important, to my understanding, that we are not only talking about the material culture we have in the museum, but that we connect also not only the knowledge, but also the practice of the objects. I know that this is difficult, as a lot of the objects, the material cultures in museum had a transformation process. You bring it to a museum and the object changes. It's never the same again because it has been into a museum. So this is something you always have to consider if you just deal with these items. And you also mentioned about restitution. This is definitely a topic we are constantly talking about. And also this is possible in the question of exchanging objects, bringing new ones in, taking old ones out. This is also a way of having a kind of cooler system, exchanging objects and knowledge. And in this case, and I'll stop here, don't want to overdo it. In this case, we definitely have to talk about your canoe being exhibited. That's also a point, you know, this is something definitely. This is, we have an offer like this, we have to consider it and make a point out of it. I will stop here. Maybe there are some questions, and I will just stop in thanking you for being here, taking all the time, seeing our collection, and giving for us a very warm and very positive response on what we are doing. And I can also say that I really appreciate that you are looking forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been very important to us to hear your voices once again. We've heard a range of different points. We've heard Mario, who wants his boats in the collections. We've heard, however, also from Stan, who talks about not objects, as we have heard in the most recent statements, but about Tonga and ancestral presences with whom we have established, to whom we are obliged, and with whom we have to establish relations, because they are not objects, but also sometimes at least subjects. We've heard from Seta that it's important to bring not only you guys to Berlin, but also the youth in order, and this is something I've heard from Fanny, to bring life, young life to the artifacts that are on display here, with all the knowledge and reverence that they deserve. And listening to Luke and Betty and to Lolo, I think a lot of what is needed is not only attention, but money. A lot of the conversations that we have are about funds that are necessary for the communities to realize the visions and projects. So we are having ultimately a very material discussion here, and may also be talking ultimately about obligations arising from past events that have led to the fact that a lot of things from your region is in this very space. Without further ado, I will hand over to the audience who's hung out with us for such a long time. We are all very tired, but I want to give opportunity to bring in at least 3-4 questions before we all give us a round of applause and close the event. But I'm not mistaken, Mimi, did you want to make a point?
We
Yes,
would like to
I
make
mean-
some comments, but if the audience has concerns, then let them.
No, you guys
speak
go first and then we open out.
All right, but you may regret this. We are, as a group, immensely grateful to all that you've done to make this possible for us. And we have a few paltry little gifts that do symbolize our aloha for you all. I will hand this over to Mimi.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
For Lars.
yeah, Lars.
Because he's such a good cook.
Yes.
We're giving him a selection of our traditional handmade Kauai salt, which we hope he will use to good effect. Careful, yeah. Thank you.
And Anya, please. They've worked for years on this miracle of a project. We hope you will appreciate. This is from Taumako. I shouldn't be even speaking of it.
Yeah. Sort of a do-it-yourself sale. We can share.
Yeah.
Tell them what it is.
Yep. Angie, what you hold in your hand is that's the mat that we made the shell of the tepuke from, and the kaha, the one that we made from the coconut fiber of coconut husk, and that's the nini that we used to made the shell. So looking at the shell at the museum, I will talk with the day that we might provide some mat to send here to try to repair that shell in the museum. But yeah, for us, Tamago, so glad to give you the gift. This. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And this goes with it. So, yeah. So we would like to thank you for welcoming us all here. And here are copies of both the films. Yeah. And here is some kaha from Taumako, although everyone here makes it. Anyway, this is symbolizing our enduring and strengthening connection. We're bound together.
We are, absolutely. Thank you.
We have 4 students who've been extremely helpful to us, and we'd like to present them with little gifts. We know, I think students always need coffee, and so we've brought special coffee all the way from Kauai. Our Kauai coffee is a fairly young industry, but it's already world famous, and if you guys like it, it's going to get even more so. So please come up and get your coffee.
They deserve a special round of applause.
Well, now we'll turn it over to the audience, and then I need to formally close the program at the end.
And just so that you don't think that Anya and I are stingy, we continue with the delegation to London to be at the Greenwich Museum for one day. And we take our students along. So that's our thank you to them. Yeah, the floor is now open to questions. Please try not to co-comment, but really ask genuine questions to the esteemed knowledge holders who are on stage. And Larissa goes next.
And just as part of a broader audience, I wanted to thank everyone as well, the organizers who've fantastically organized this fantastic event, and then also who've brought together this extraordinary group of people, and then to you, the guests who've
I guess, honored this house and this site with your presence. I think I'm speaking from the perspective of German museums and the work that is done in these museums and the decolonizing work. And we are at a point where I think we are all convinced that in order to have these exhibitions and these museums, we need to have the conversation with you, with partners from the countries from which all these artifacts come from. But the question is, how do we do this conversation, and how do we make it a long-term conversation and dialogue? Not necessarily always consensual, but I think a longer lasting thing. And I'd really be interested to know from you, what is it, how you imagine, how you imagine this dialogue, this conversation going on in the next years with this museum, maybe also other German museums that do hold Polynesian artifacts as well. What types of formats, what types of programs would you like to engage in, so you feel it's a good dialogue, it's a dialogue where everyone has a say in?
I can't comment because I only have 6 days of visa in here, so I'm going back tomorrow. But anyway, I think if we're gonna leave it in for if we're gonna leave it for quite a long time, and then the connections pretty much gonna die away, and then we gonna forget what we're hoping to do. But I think the way forward from here is to keep exchanging knowledge, in like the director mentioned. It's a matter of like keeping the connection going and keep the canoe sailing, to be honest. And then we left our home because we feel like we have to share our knowledge, and we have to make waves. So we have because it's important to us. And I think it's the way forward is just to do an exchanging program where we can involve more youth in this occasion. That would be my comment.
You can just pick up a mic if you want to speak.
Can I
Yeah, thank you. I'm not really understand their question, but what it becomes like communication with us and the mission.
In the future, how should it go on?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Wakatamako Association, as I said, we try to revive, meaning there's something been missing. And like our forefathers and our mothers, our great-grandparents, they didn't preserve it. We haven't got any system how to preserve, how to pass on the knowledge, because our forefathers didn't know how to write. Everything passed by to the mouse. And when the technology things come into the brain, it's messed up, so people are forgetting something. So my point is that if the museum here like how can you help us to ensure that if we revive some pieces of our traditional way of sailing or cooking or way of living, so how can we preserve it? How can we in the long term? So I don't know how to explain it, but it's something in that line. Like how can we exchange that information? How can we protect it? As I said, the Vaka that inside the machine travels thousands of miles. And it appears like, and some of the tank that I didn't saw when we have our Vaka, and those tanks are in there. So I take a very close look at it, and it's something that's been preserved and not been stored. But in our back at home, we don't know how to preserve how to make the things pass on to new generation. Like for us, we might have a museum back home or a system that we can like a process that we created to pass that knowledge. Something, if now you understand what I'm trying to say, but yes, something that how can we, or how can you advise me? Okay, look, you do this, if you are to, you have to create in this education system to pass. You have to make a law to, you have to negotiate with your government to, know something. So, yeah, maybe?
Maybe can I just comment just before because I still remember my idea anyway. I think I think one of the way forward as well is leaving no one behind. And I had this woman from Tonga that came and sailed on the Drua, and she, because she saw the Drua on the internet, of course. And so she flew all the way to Suva just to jump on the Drua and have a talk. Anyway, she said they already started. Established a voyaging society apart from the voyaging society they've been in Tonga at the moment. So what they wanted to do is that they wanted to bring back the kalia, a traditional canoe building and sailing in Tonga. They wanted to revive the kalia. But what she said is that because they did a research around Tonga and they found there was no one else left in Tonga that still hold the knowledge of how to build a kalia. And when I walk into the room, when I saw the kalia, it reminds me of this woman that I was looking everywhere, trying to see if there's a hope for her and her voyaging society in terms of revitalizing their kalia, their traditional canoe building. And I think if we spread the word, these people, if there's a way that that you can include, these organizations that are struggling, to put their foot down and move forward from what they have so far. So yeah, that's just one thing that I remember that I wanted to share.
Just to add, because we've talked about this before, it'd be great if that woman could be here and have a look in the depot.
Exactly.
At the model.
And have been here for 2 days, because these leaders of communities with voyaging schools or who are trying to make the schools such that they can accommodate more students and meet the rules that exist and cross the borders that stop them. That's what they've been saying for 2 days. The question is, I think Luke does not really understand your question because he's already said it. He's trying to make a school function in a way that can meet the current situation. There's no electricity, there's no communication. They're trying to build a permanently roofed, what would be in English, a canoe house, a holau. And all of these leaders and experts are trying to do the same thing. And they all have very similar needs, which they have been describing, which is the answer as far as being able to interact with students, whether they come from outside or from within their island groups. It's the same answer. They need a certain amount of communication ability and accommodation. And they are here to try to make their vision happen by connecting with people here who want to see that, who think that would help. And it definitely would help here because look what's happening here. You know, we're not going to make it. We're losing our planet. So people who know about what they know about, the ocean, 71% of the surface of the planet. And what does science know about it? Modern science, very little. They're here, they're offering. So that's, yeah, I'm just trying to explain why Luke doesn't understand the question because that's what he's been saying. I'm going to shut up.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. You're saying what can a museum do on the other side of the world? And for us, we know that there are key dates in our calendars in the Pacific that we can come together, and that key points where we can share knowledge. That may be Matariki. There are other dates too where we can come together and share knowledge with you. So those are opportunities to have touchstones where we don't lose touch. We come together on these key dates. There may even be key dates that are global key dates, World Ocean Day, or the COP meetings. For us, or what I find from our dialogue is that what's missing is actually our voice in these larger conversations. People are speaking for us, and we just want the opportunity to have a seat at the table and be a voice in the conversation. And I think that's where museums can help. There are key dates where we can dialogue with you. You can dialogue with us, and they can be global conversations that affect others in the planet. Another way where we can come together is just in education, and the fact that we're educating our kids, and you could do the same with your kids and your visitors that come to your museums. There's lessons that we have which are global lessons that are relevant to our kids, but they're relevant to your kids as well. Another thing is, the digital sector. For us, and even around artifacts, we find that artifacts are just not sustainable if we repatriate. But what is sustainable is the data. We want that data, and we want to be able to share that data so that we can actually, and we want the opportunity to talk through those artifacts that sit in your museums, and to bring those artifacts to life, and to, if anything, feed those important issues for us through your artifacts, and then to your audience and to your stakeholders. So I think there are many ways that we can actually come together, but we need to probably sit down and have the discussion. And we applaud you that you've actually included us in your discussion, because there are many times where we are not included in these discussions. That's me for now.
Thank you, Stan. Lars and I were looking at one another, and we think that is a good final word for us today. We're just looking at our schedule. It's been two very long days, and Mev told us just before, we're not done yet. We need to close this event, and we think it's a good moment to do so. I want to thank all of you, but I'll hand over to Mev.
Well, yesterday when I formally opened, which maybe you didn't realize I was formally opening this conference, I opened the spiritual gate, which must now be shut, and I need your help to do it. We tricked you that were here yesterday into becoming members of Lotta's crew. And now, because I've spoken the name of Lotta, the rest of you have been tricked into becoming members of the crew of Lotta. So help me invoke Lotta one last time. The way you can do this is by clapping like this. my leg, which perfumes all that it touches, have been scattered. You are those seeds. Scatter yourselves throughout the world and fill it with your love. The prayer is ended and we are free.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, guys.